Hi guys, welcome back to this week's pull, or as Josh would always like to say,
what are we reading?
That's a great question. Before we get started on that, guys, I hope you like that our new avatars, and also we got a little bit of some constructive criticism last week on some of the background music that we used, so let us know if this feels a little less distracting to you, if this makes it easier to listen to, and also don't forget that embedded somewhere inside of this video is a secret code phrase that you can get 20% off any issue that is found on your pull list when you come in this week and give us the secret code phrase. And with that...
That was the worst movie phone voice ever.
I hate you. So why don't you talk about your shitty Batman 51?
Hey, you know what? This is probably not a shitty Batman 51. All right, so Batman 51, written by Tom King. This is following after the Batman wedding.
His voice is just shitty in general.
It is. I know. Okay, and what we find out is that Bruce Wayne is a juror.
A juror.
A juror.
And a jerk.
And a jerk.
Yeah, he hates bathrooms.
And he likes to wear pink button-up shirts under his sports jacket.
And stay at dingy motels.
But he is part of a jury that is for a trial against Mr. Freeze. Or I think is it trial of Mr. Freeze. What you see in this is that Dick is now taking the mantle of Batman for right now while he is doing this. And we're seeing when we see Bruce Wayne, he seems calm, cool, collected, quiet. But there's all these talks about how Batman's kind of lost his ways. He's kind of, I don't know, how would I say it?
Not that he's lost his way, but that he's just, I don't know, he's kind of unraveling a little bit.
Yeah. And this trial's not looking too good towards Batman at all. Out of every Tom King book that I've read of Batman, I really do not like Tom King on Batman. I really don't. But this book was a little bit better. The whole crime aspect of it and the case, the courtroom kind of feel to it. I dig it. The ending I saw coming a mile away. And I do like the idea of Batman just being really just like distraught, you know? And you see him lose his cool a couple of times. I don't like how the story kind of jumbles back and forth. Tom King does that all the time, where it's like he's going to show you present time, but in the next panel he's going to show you.
It's super smart, past. Bro. You just don't get it.
I guess he does it. It's smart when you do it once or twice, but he does it all the time and he doesn't do it effectively. I would give this book. And I'm going to reveal the grading scale. Come on, let me get an offer from you, Jake.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. All right, I give this book 2.25 baby turtles.
Yeah, I think Dallas and I both read this book as well. And it is no secret that I have not been a fan of Tom King on Batman. I will say this issue was definitely more tolerable than the past quite a few issues. But again, my issue with this... no pun intended, is the same thing with X-Men Gold right now. It's sidestepping the fallout of the not getting married bullshit, and I'm getting tired of this stuff. It's like, hey, we built up this Kitty and Colossus are going to get married. The next two issues don't deal with it at all. Hey, we built up that Batman and Catwoman are getting married. Didn't happen. Now, I mean, spoiler alert, but I think even everyone knows that. Now we're not going to deal with it. We're going to make Batman a juror on a case that Batman put Mr. Freeze away, and he's going to serve as a juror while no one, we get it, right? The dichotomy of he's Batman, but he's going to be a juror as Bruce Wayne. And yeah, as you said, the ending is, I mean, you see it coming so far out. It's just like, all I thought to myself was, if I'm Tom King, if I know Tom King and I'm him, how am I going to end this? Bam, he ended it exactly the way I thought he was going to end it. There's no surprises. It is an interesting idea to see the legalities of Batman and the people he puts away, and then the court cases that we never see, and to make Batman part of the jury. It's interesting, but the book isn't that interesting. As Dallas pointed out to me, sorry to take away one of your talking points, but it's like, the book is such a quick read because there are so many fucking ads in the book.
It's literally every other page. And then
I don't think you guys realize it, but I think it's like, usually it's about the same amount of ads. It's just like, then you realize it with like the writing and stuff. Because we did this last week.
The pages just, they go so quickly. You flip through them so fast because, one, Tom King does not like to put a lot of dialogue in his books.
Was not a lot.
And again, it's super smart if you do that.
Yeah. But like Batman 50, like we did this with like a couple of weeks ago. Batman 50 had 11 ads while Green Arrow had 13 ads. But you felt those ads a lot more in Batman 50.
Because there's not
Even
much
though there's
dialogue.
And I also feel like the way they split up ads in other one, well, like this comic specifically, it was like 1-page ad, 2 nice pages of actual art and dialogue, and then a 2-page spread ad, 1 page of comic, 1 page. It was so like close as opposed to spread out. Mm-hmm. And then like you said, the story was so short that you're just flipping through and you're like, okay, here's another ad, and you're just flipping through basically reading ads. I think I spent more time reading the ads than the book.
I don't even pay attention to the ads. But anyway, my grade for this is 2 baby turtles. Just a solid 2 baby turtles. That's it.
I think I'm going to go slightly higher. I'm a little behind on Batman, but as you said, New York Times and several other people have spoiled it, so I already knew what happened in Batman 50, and I was expecting a follow-up, and there was no spoilers for anything. I could have read this issue. If someone wanted to jump on Batman right now, there would be no spoilers.
I'm being optimistic. I feel like they're going to address it the way that Batman.
Oh, they
apparently
will.
They're talking about how aggressive Batman's being and I feel like that's going to be what's contributing to it.
Right, but that's the thing, though, too, that Tom
think the
King
whole-
has announced a 100-issue run, so he's going to drag this shit out as long as possible. You know, like, this is a filler issue, because the last issue had nothing to do with Mr. Freeze. This issue, everything Mr. Freeze has already done, Batman putting him away is already done. Now we're dealing with a few pages of him being a juror, and it's just... What's the point? You know, it's if you're going to just jump so abruptly from one story to the other, I don't get it. Not that I don't get the story, I don't get the purpose of it.
I think the best way to make this issue better, I like the idea. Batman in the courtroom, like you said, I like that separation, how you get to see the flip side and how everybody's talking about Batman and he gets to see it from other people's
And the
point of
thing
view.
is, too, they were all talking up Batman
They
really
were.
well. To the point where I was like, really?
They were.
Not one
The only-
person's got an issue with Batman?
The only person that was questioning it, of course, was the defense from Mr. Freeze. He was pointing out the plot holes,
Right.
like you said, like, you know, certain things that Batman's not qualified to do, he's doing it.
Yeah.
I think the best way to introduce this better is at the very beginning, have a conversation with Alfred, something about the wedding, just slowly ease into this, and then start with Mr. Freeze. No back and forth, like you said, Josh. Start with the Mr. Freeze stuff, and then go straight to the courtroom. Ease into it, don't just cut back and forth and completely bypass the wedding. And I think that would have made the issue a lot better. A like straightforward story, following it up, kind of touching on it, but not focusing too much. So for me, it was okay. It was an okay read. I'd give it probably about 2.5 baby turtles.
Anyway, so we're all kind of hovering in the same area.
Yeah.
All right, next issue we've got up on the docket for you, ladies and gentlemen, is The Magic Order #2 from Mark Millar and art by Oliver Copiel. And if you guys remember, about a month ago, I covered this book thinking, this is awesome. I really like this. It's very classic Mark Millar style. The storytelling, he gets right to the nitty-gritty. It's intelligently told. It's interestingly told. There's no shying away from cursing or gore or anything like that. There's also a nice little nod to Kick-Ass, as Josh pointed out while we were reading it. But basically this book is, I think the way I described it last time was Harry Potter meets, what was it?
You had a really good one.
Yeah, I can't remember it now. I don't know, but it still has a Harry Potter feel, but this one gets a little bit more
political and their
well, but it feels more like Kick-Ass, like where it got kind of gory, it got very not explicit per se, but it's not your typical comic book that you're going to read from the big two publishers. And so basically there's this order of magicians who kind of keep the world in balance, and you know they protect it from otherworldly magical threats, and now they're all being picked off one by one. And what's kind of cool is they use what would you call them, like urban folktale or urban legends and stuff, like how if certain tribes thought that if you got your picture taken it captured your soul. They used stuff like that in here. They talk about how they won like World War I and II because they were a part of that. So I like when you rewrite history and add the mythology that way. But this one's brutal, man. Like, you get some backstory on one of your characters. You get the story is progressing, and it doesn't waste any time. That's what I like. It's not lingering on stuff I don't need to know, but I still feel like I'm getting to know the characters and kind of their archetype and their personality. And then, people are just start getting picked off in very clever ways, in ways that I'm like, that's what you want from Magic. You want stuff that makes you think outside the box. It makes you go, wow, I would have never thought of something like that. And then, of course, the very end, I don't know what it is about Mark Millar and liking this kind of BDSM look on his villains, because it was in Kick-Ass and Kick-Ass 2, and now it's in here. But it's classic Mark Millar style, and I really enjoyed this book. I mean, it's not the longest read, it isn't the most memorable read, but I will say out of the 5 issues I read for this one, this was probably my favorite today. So I'm going to give this one a solid 3.25 baby turtles.
Yeah, Josh and I both read it as well, and I really did enjoy the first issue. This one, I felt like the first one really hit it off with like, what the hell am I reading? And this one you already kind of know, so they kind of went more like political magic order. They're discussing what's going on with everybody. So you get a little more backstory into the order, the secret order, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I started getting little like flashes of Order of the Phoenix from Harry Potter.
That's so it really does call out basically an R-rated Harry Potter.
Yeah.
And so if you're a Harry Potter fan, I'm 100% sure you'll enjoy it. If you're not and you just like magic, I'm sure this has elements to it, like you said, folklore. It brings in other things. I think the ways that they're doing what they're doing is interesting because they're not just killing everybody off the same way. They're doing everything uniquely, which is kind of keeping it refreshing, even though it's literally they're killing everybody off, which could be repetitive, but they do it in a refreshing way. This one I really enjoyed, and I'm probably lingering about 3.25 as well. Baby Turtles.
I'm lingering at 3.0 Baby Turtles.
Nice crisp 0.0.
Yeah, I like it. I am a Harry Potter fan. I think it's what really kind of drives me on it. I do like the goriness of it, and I did like the soul camera. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I also want to say it's not like over the top gory either, like some of Kirkman's work that I've seen.
No, it's Mark Millar fashion. You know what I mean? That's the best way I can put it.
Gore where it's necessary.
Yeah, Superior, Nemesis. It's not as bloody as Nemesis and like Jupiter's Legacy and Circle, Kick-Ass, that kind of stuff. If you like any of that kind of stuff, this is
I just feel like it just like I feel like the gore is like the perfect amount, make it like almost realistic in some sense.
Right.
It's very. He's taking a risk. You can tell that this is taking a risk, you know, and that's what that's one thing that makes me like it and why I enjoy it.
And plus, Oliver Copiel on the art. For me, Oliver Copiel can't go wrong. So, all right, Dallas, you read
Justice League number 4. I actually read 3 and 4 back to back because I had to catch up because I missed 2 podcasts ago. So the team on this is the same that it's been: Snyder, Jimenez, and Sanchez. Jimenez.
Yeah,
I did it right this time.
Not Jimenez.
I didn't do it just to mess with you. So this one, you get a little more backstory into some of the villains. You start off with Gorilla Grodd, kind of understanding who he is as a creature and his psychology. You get more progression between Martian Manhunter and Superman on what they're doing in the, what's the area, what they call it?
The totality or something, yeah.
They're getting a little more of that, so you get a little more backstory with Batman and Hawkgirl, who are inside of both Martian Manhunter and Superman to fight off any infections.
Which is weird.
It's weird in the way they deal with some of its. I don't care for the way the Legion of Doom is being dealt with in the comic. I will say the best part I think to me so far has been Jon Stewart and his story arc, because it's at least they're introducing a new, interesting thing to me. This new spectrum.
New element.
Yeah, it's interesting to me though. I don't quite understand it, which I think is the point. No one understands it, but it seems to be this all-powerful thing, which all comics seem to do, and I get it. You have to have these big crises and these people you just can't beat, and they always got to go up one more. But I feel like this is just another thing that's like, this is all powerful, you can't beat it, and they're telling you it and not showing you it. But still, I think Jon Stewart's the best story arc through this so far. All the other points, some of the characters are okay in the way they're written, and I enjoy some of them. Other ones not so much. There's a twist that I'm not going to go into that was kind of disappointing. I guess the best way to say it. I think we all kind of agreed on the twist, how we all kind of like why. I mean, it was just there.
Right.
And
it didn't make any sense.
It didn't. And so there's some more story progression between their stories. There's nothing new really introduced. So if you've been reading so far, it's just further progression of those stories already set forth. You guys read it as well, so I'm going to rate it and then pass it on. This one's okay. I'd give it probably a solid 2 Baby Turtles.
I haven't really been caring for this Justice League storyline. There's too much going on, and the only thing I really enjoy is I actually kind of enjoy Snyder writing Sinestro. I don't think it's bad. I think that's probably the best thing that he has going on with this book. I don't like a lot of the other elements in this, the way he writes other characters, these ideas that he comes up with that you feel like he's sitting here going like, I need to come up with something original, something that gonna like make people drop their jaws. And it's like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. Like, it makes this only makes sense in a 1970s kids cartoon. Like, it's something that my dad probably has seen back in the cartoon when he was a kid. This certain little elements are things that we've seen tons of times. Yeah. And then also, I can't get over the fact that on the cover, Joker looks like a night or like looks like a 20-year-old fuckboy. I don't understand that shit. With all that being said, I give this 1.75 baby turtles.
Yeah, for me, where Snyder lost me is he used one of the lines that I hate so much in anything in movies and comics. It's just cheese. It's lazy. He's too powerful. Cyborg says this to Jon Stewart. No, he's too powerful. It won't work. It's like, good God, really? You had to say that? I mean, I can't stand it. Again, this is also, like you guys were talking about, we've seen this before. This is literally Justice League Doom, the cartoon Justice League Doom, mixed with the fallout and the repercussions of metal. That's all this really is. And he's making up new stuff like the Still Force, which is the opposite of the Speed Force. He's making up new fucking lanterns. It's just, but there are so many things that we've seen before in here as well. Like, we've seen it so many times. And then Luthor is like, he's the puppet master. He's the puppeteer. He's pulling all these strings. And it makes me go, well, Joker's a douche because when does he ever get controlled? Cheetah and Manta are in here, and he's rewriting John Jones' history, and he's just kind of making up the rules as he goes along, and I'm just not digging it. I'm like, there's got to be some stuff in these universes, shared universes, that just can't be fucked with. He's basically just going, what is this? What's the opposite of that? Wouldn't that be interesting? What's that? What's the opposite of that? That'd be interesting.
It's like he's run out of ideas. I need to think of something original that make people go, huh? And it's like... Yeah,
there's also this shock value thing with Joker and Hawkgirl that I won't say, but they also never address it again, so I'm not sure what happened there. But anyway, I'm done talking about this issue. 1.75, I'm right with Josh. It's better than the last issue, but it's not a good issue.
We're all hovering about the same.
Yeah.
All
right.
So for another book I read was issue 1 of Euthanauts. It's written by Howard. I think it's Tina Howard, and the art's done by Nick Robles. I don't know. It follows a woman who seems to be working for a foundation, like a funeral foundation. She's intrigued by death, and she's at a restaurant with her friends, and she comes across this dying old woman, and long story short, the dying old woman kills her in a bathroom, and she ends up in this, I guess what you would say is like almost like purgatory. The book is really trippy. This book is just laying out the story, so there's not a whole lot of drive going on, but it's a very trippy book, and it deals a lot with death. It's very comic book unconventional writing. All in all, though, it's not really that bad. It wasn't really that bad of a read. I give it 2.75 baby turtles.
All right, and Dallas, both of us read Injustce versus the Masters of the Universe. And I wasn't a big fan of this. One, it's because there's just so much to read, but it's not interesting. It's all like, if you're not a He-Man fan or Masters of the Universe fan, there's just like a ton of backstory for all this stuff. But they assume that you know the backstory of the Injustce world a little bit. I mean, there's still a decent little chunk there that's just dumped on you too. But I've never been a fan of He-Man. I've never been a fan of Masters of the Universe. I don't have anything invested in these characters, so they're like, it's almost like these reveals are supposed to be like, oh my god, nostalgia. Oh my god, nostalgia. But for me, it's like, okay, there's a character whose name I don't know, and they're like Master of Arms and Tila, like these characters I don't know. The reason I read this is like, I'll give it a chance. It sounds also like this is a follow-up to He-Man Thundercats. Mm-hmm. I can tell it's the same artist that's on Batman TMNT thing. So, I don't know, apparently this artist likes to do these kind of amalgam universes together. But there's not even a whole lot to say about this. It's just like, here's this universe, and then here's this universe. We're going to kind of go into this a little bit, then we're going to go into this a little bit. But it's a 5-issue thing, so it's the first issue. It's just kind of setting everything up. Apparently somebody thought, hey, there's a Swamp Thing type character in DC and then like a tree type character in Masters of the Universe. What if they were all connected? And apparently He-Man's mom is from Earth, but he's never been there. I don't know. The end is pretty much what you would expect from a DC book, I guess. I don't know. I'm not that intrigued by it. I won't be reading issue 2, but I figured I'd give this one a chance, see if I liked it, see if it kind of caught my eye the way the Jetsons and the Flintstones and like the DC Hanna-Barbera stuff did. But this one just wasn't for me. Dallas, how'd you feel about it?
First thing I gotta get out of the way is the negatives. Artwork, I absolutely hate. I hate the way some of the characters are drawn, like Batman. He's like overly bulky. It looks like he's wearing a mech suit, not the Injustice suit.
I also get the feeling it's Dick Grayson.
I don't know. Well, I mean, in the Injustice universe, he's dead.
Yeah, he's dead man now in the Injustice universe.
I didn't know he was dead man. I knew he died.
No, he's dead man.
Oh, well, let's just say that Batman is captured by Superman, and there's another Batman here, so I'm guessing it's Dick Grayson.
I'm not... The general storyline from Injustice is there's one from our Earth, and there's one from the Injustice Earth.
Oh, okay.
And the Injustice Earth, he went to our Earth to recruit some of the heroes to go back to fight Superman. So I'm assuming those are the two Earth Batmans. Now... This one, it basically picks up after the second game, which I haven't read the comics, I've just played the games. So the second game was basically about fighting off Brainiac, which that's why Superman has certain elements of Brainiac to him. It basically kind of seems like they're just continuing from the plot of Season 1, or Game 1, or Comic Story Arc 1, and just starting it over. Again, Superman's in lead again, he's building up his regime, you gotta go find heroes to come and save. So they're just reusing the same plot to introduce this amalgam crossover.
Superman's like preemptively going after magical devices,
And I mean, that was interesting enough. They show a different weakness to Superman being magic. And I will say there was one nice thing that they just threw it in. They didn't deal with it nice. It's Superman has another teammate, I'm not going to say who, but he has a way to find these magical items. And I thought that was interesting, at least to tie it. But as far as all, like you said, all the backstory with He-Man, it was too much at the beginning.
Yeah.
I didn't need all this plot. If they would have just dealt with it quicker and then pushed in, and we would have seen a lot more crossover. Because crossover really doesn't happen until the last fourth of the comic.
Yeah.
So honestly, it's more of a Masters of the Universe comic than it is Injustice. It was okay. I'm going to probably give it like 1.75 baby turtles.
Yeah, I'm going to steal a book out of Josh's page and say this just isn't geared towards me. This isn't something that is for me to read. If you're a Masters of the Universe fan, I assume this is something a little bit more up your alley.
Might be.
I'm not well acquainted with the IP, so I don't know. But for me, I'm going to go 1.5 just because it didn't interest me and it felt like a chore to read.
Yeah.
So
I'll at least give it 2 issues and see from there.
Yeah.
So now we're going to move over to another amalgam crossover. Archie meets Batman 66 number 1. Let's get to the team here. We have Jeff Parker and Michael Morrissey doing the story, and Dan Parent doing the pencils. I was not a fan of Batman 66. I wasn't raised on it. I can't go back and watch it because it just pisses me off. I got 3 episodes in before I stopped. However, Batman 66 in comic form works completely perfectly because it's that cheesy, kiddish element. The cartooning's Archie style, and it works perfectly. So the story's basically there's this big science event going on. Poison Ivy was just broken out of Arkham, and she's riding this giant beast. And of course, our heroes come up to stop her, which this was actually a ploy by another group of people. I'm not going to give names. Another group of people, they broke her out just so they could steal something. So it was a subplot to distract the heroes. It's a fun read. You get some Archie stuff. They're preparing for a car show, and you get a very brief glimpse of it, but it looks like they're mimicking the Batmobile. But while all this is going on and Poison Ivy's being dealt with, all the villains are meeting up and planning, and they're basically like, hey, Gotham's guarded by Batman, and Batman does everything he can to protect it. Why don't we just go to the city right next to us that isn't protected, that's Riverdale, and just go and rob them blind because they've got a bunch of riches? So you get some high school drama going on with Archie and the gang, and it ends on a very interesting note between communication between the Archie crew and the Bat crew. So it's leading up to the follow-up following this mysterious gang that has stolen an item from this event. So this one was a fun read. If you're into Batman 66 or Archie, I'm sure you'll love it. This one I'd probably give a 3 out of 5 baby turtles.
that is your best review yet.
I believe so. That was
I think that was like one of his tops, even with the Marvel books this week.
Yeah, they were kind of.
And we picked that for you because we did not want to read it.
I probably would have picked it anyway.
Granted, I love Batman 66. And was Batgirl in it?
Yeah.
Man, I remember being a kid watching it, and then like when you're watching the beginning of it, and you see the cartoon Batgirl on the Batcycle, I was like, yeah,
she has.
That's
the
my first.
Batcycle.
That was like my first celebrity crush if I think about it. But also, he did it. Ask him.
There's your passcode, folks. All right, moving on to...
Okay, and then my last book that I read this week was Gideon Falls #5 by Jeff Lemire and Andrea Sorrentino.
Which is a dude. I always have to remind myself.
I know. And you remind everybody on the podcast every time talking about it. This book, I can't praise this book any more than what I've already have on this. I love this storyline. It is so good. Out of the 5, this is probably my least favorite one. It's really a hard book to kind of go in and talk about without ruining certain aspects of the other issues and where the book is going. And so I don't want to go into detail about that, but it's continuing with this very supernatural Twin Peakian. It's dark, it's eerie, and it just works so well. The writing, this book would not be good if you had a different artist or if you had a different writer. These two together is what makes this book so good. Lemire and Sorrentino.
I'm really glad that you fit that under your umbrella of your review.
Yes, thank you. I really love the way that they're arting this book. It's just, it's
is
really
it any
great.
like Game of Thronesian at all?
It's no Game of Thronesian.
Okay.
All right, guys,
so it's perfect for you, Georgie R.R. Romano, whatever.
Romano, yeah.
Yeah, wrong one. Don't even care. R.R. Martin. I don't know how
There
many
you go.
R's is in there. Don't even give a shit. This book is really good. I highly recommend this book. Even with this, out of the 5 issues, this one is probably my least favorite, but with that being said, this still deserves a 3.0 Baby Turtles.
All right. And the last one I'm going to talk about, guys, and I know you're like, hey, what about all the other DC books? Look, this is just a slim week for DC, guys. There's no other way to put it. There just wasn't a lot being released from DC this week, so we had a chance to kind of branch out into some other indie stuff or just some, unconventional titles. So the last thing I read was the XFiles, Case Files, Hoot Goes There, by... the writers are Joe and Keith Lansdale, artist is Sylvia Califano. And I gotta say, it was a fun little read. I liked it. I enjoyed reading it. It definitely feels like an episode of the X-Files.
So you were a fan of X-Files?
I actually wasn't a big fan.
Really?
I've probably seen
Wait a minute.
10, 15 episodes.
Do you believe?
I do. But I've seen about 10, 15 episodes of it, and there's a definite formula to it. It's got kind of the formula that like a Law and Order episode would kind of have. But this one deals with a owl witch, they believe, is like plaguing their little town in Texas. And I didn't do any research to see if this is like an actual myth thing, but it's funny. There's a lot of good little puns made, and I gotta say, Mulder feels just like David Duchovny. And it's awesome. The art even looks like David Duchovny, and I can't help but feel there's a little X-Files and Californication when reading him. But
So he's having sex a lot in this.
No, he alludes to it a couple times. So basically, there's like this quote-unquote owl witch that comes and picks up this dude's neighbor. He's like some redneck, lives in a trailer. He's like, I know what I saw, all that kind of stuff. And
Them goddamn aliens.
yeah, and
I got it on my potato phone. Look at it.
if X-Files, like Mulder, he's a believer, but he also kind of likes to jab the people he's interviewing. So you get all that classic kind of X-Files feel. But the thing that actually took me back a little bit is that this is not a self-contained book, and that there's going to be a follow-up issue to this. And so, because of this, I'm actually interested in reading the next one. I mean, I'm not the biggest X-Files file, but, I do enjoy it enough to say, I'll give this a read, and enough to say that this book feels in keeping with X-Files.
So you say it is X-Filian?
It's X-Filean,
So
Yeah, it has X-Filian.
you would say that you give a hoot about this book.
I'd give this book a couple hoots for sure. The end is definitely weird, but it doesn't feel outside the realm of a traditional X-Files book, or not book, but episode. So I'm going to give this one a good 2.75 Baby Turtles, and say that Magic Order was definitely my favorite issue for this podcast. You guys want to say anything else?
I suggest getting Gideon Falls. It's a great book.
I think my favorite read this week was Archie Meets Batman 66.
I'm
Just wanted to
sorry.
hear him say it.
I'm sorry, Tom King. I'm sorry, Scott Snyder. Your guys' books were not at the top of our list this week. And anybody who wants to, hit that thumbs down button, feel free to do so. We're just giving you guys our honest opinion. But we really appreciate you guys listening. Don't be afraid to hit that thumbs up button. Resist with us. Comment below. Let us know your guys' honest thoughts on any of these books, or if there's any DC books that we didn't review this week that you think that we should definitely give a look. And of course, subscribe to the channel. We really appreciate all the support we've been getting so far. Our subscribers have been steadily increasing, and we really appreciate that, guys. So be on the lookout for tomorrow, where we're going to do another podcast on our Wednesday, and we are going to update you guys on what's going on with our film fantasy draft. So stay tuned for that, and take care.